Welcome back to Rookie Mistakes, episode 10, I believe. 9, 10?
9, I think.
9.
Yeah.
I'm Ethan. That's Jeremy. We're talking college sports today. We took a brief hiatus last week. I was actually playing volleyball.
Yeah.
We had our last game of the regular season.
And?
We lost, but we lost in 3 games. It's best out of 3. We lost in 3.
You get any credit for winning one of the 3?
We don't get credit, but we credit ourselves. We don't get credit in the actual score books.
Okay.
But yes,
moral victories.
Yeah, moral victories.
Okay.
Definitely our first game that we won the entire season. So the
No
whole entire
way.
thing is called a match. One of them is called a game. We won a game. That's big. It was the last game of the season.
Weren't you guys like the 1 seed last season?
Yeah, the 1 seed. We were in the intermediate league.
Oh, and you moved
this
up.
season. Yeah, we actually got
Despite your first round exit in the playoffs.
Yeah, despite our first round exit. Well, we actually self-decided that we wanted to be in a more competitive league.
Okay.
Ended up being not the best choice.
Okay. You're going right back down?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're probably going to relegate ourselves back down to the intermediate league once again.
Fair enough.
But it was good to end on a high note, I will say.
Yeah.
So that did happen. I'm sorry to all the fans who were patiently waiting with bated breath.
It's okay,
but
we're back.
We're back. We're going to give you something nice this week. It'll be fun.
Yeah, we're back and better than ever. I think you and I are both on the struggle bus a little bit right now. I'm just so tired. I just took a 20-minute nap on the couch, like trying to juice up for the pod.
Yeah.
You came in, you said you took a 20-minute nap in the office today.
In the office, yeah. The office has nap pods, which...
You guys have real nap pods?
We have real nap pods, although I'm not sure what fake nap pods look like necessarily. But yes, we have pods dedicated to napping. But
they're called nap pods.
They are called nap
If you're
pods.
in there, it's expected that you're napping.
Yes. Although
that's wild.
It's not that comfortable. The pillows are like hay. They're all scratchy. There's like people banging and walking through the hallway next door. It's not like a quiet room necessarily.
It's not like soundproof?
It's not soundproof
Is
at
there
all.
a bed?
There's a bed, but it looks like you're in a little like space pod. It's really not.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to need some more visuals. Can you lay down fully?
So you can imagine a chair that reclines that has something that's sort of enclosing your head so it gives you a bit of privacy.
Okay.
And it sort of like looks like you're on a spacecraft.
Uh-huh.
And there's one and then another probably 20 feet to the left of you. So there's another person napping right next to you potentially.
Oh, you share the same space.
We share the same space, which is why it's also a little bit awkward.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
No, it's just a little bit off.
Also, if you have that much room in between, you just put a wall.
Yeah, you put a wall, you put something that you can't like look over and like hear someone like farting or snoring. Like there's none, like you can hear everything. You're open to the elements.
I don't think I would ever nap in there.
Yeah, it was the second time I've ever napped in a nap pod at work, and honestly, I leave there feeling really shitty about myself.
Oh no! I'm picturing like Tempur-Pedic mattress and pillow.
Yeah, that's what you would hope, but no.
Well, I guess it's better than nothing. Although,
but it is funny because I work at Google and people are like, oh, Google's got nap pods, and like this is what they are.
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah,
but
I don't know. Okay, if I had nap pods at work, I'd be more encouraged to take naps like every day because I like napping.
Yeah,
but
not if it's next to someone.
No, yeah, I'm not trying to
20
nap
feet to
next to someone.
Yeah.
At one of my old jobs, I shouldn't say this out loud. There was a lactation room.
Oh, wow.
And
you would nap there? No.
Yeah. I'm obviously not supposed to use that room.
Well, we have a meditation room that I sometimes take a snooze in. So.
That's fine. Meditation's different.
Lactation. It does seem to. Yeah, it's just not even for your gender.
No. Now that I said that out loud, I shouldn't have.
Yeah,
Don't judge
we can cut that, but we won't.
No, we'll keep it in. Just everyone reserve your judgments, please.
Yeah.
You would do the same thing.
But also, so another sort of exposing ourselves. We did try to record 2 days ago.
We did.
The cord to one of our mics was broken. We've only had it for 9 episodes, so it was a little surprising.
Yeah. We are back, A, from a hiatus on the episode, and B, from a technical difficulty on our last episode. You guys will remember that our audio was not amazing, so we are back and very, very excited to bring you guys the tip-top shape form of Rookie Mistakes. But
this is the best you're going to get.
We're podcasters officially now. We've had our struggles getting out episodes. We've had our tech struggles. We've gone through it. I feel like we're legit now.
And I know we try to forego discussion for the pod only because that's the best time to have it. But you were telling me last time, as our mics were broken, so we didn't get it on air, that you were starting a new workout regimen, which sounds insane. And given this is a sports podcast, I think you have to run the audience through it.
Okay, so I wouldn't exactly call it a regiment because I don't think I'll ever do it again. But I got to give some love to my friends Joe Solomon and Evan Jaffe. They told me about this exercise called the Murph. It's named after some Navy SEAL. if you've seen the movie Lone Survivor, he's one of the guys in the movie who doesn't survive, sadly. And there's a workout.
There's a workout routine named after him.
It's for Murph March or March Murph, whatever it is. And what the workout is 1 mile. You run a mile, and then you do, in any combination, 50 pull-ups, 150 push-ups, 200 squats, and then you run another mile. And we broke it up in sets of 5 pull-ups, 15 push-ups, 20 squats. I made it through 4 reps.
Okay, 4 sets.
4 sets.
So 20 pull-ups, just multiplied everything by 4. That's how much you got through? Okay.
That's how much I got through. It's generous saying I got through that many push-ups. And I got through all the squats, which was great.
Nice.
And I did both miles, but this is 2 days later, and I am still reeling. I'm in so much pain.
That sounds terrible.
Both, Evan and Joe, crushed it. They did the whole thing in 37 minutes.
Really?
They're freaks. I don't get it.
Would I look at them and be like, yeah, those guys lift?
No. I mean, if they don't have their shirts on, maybe. But, like, they're not, like, the most, you don't pass them on the street and go, oh, that guy could beat the heck out of me. But, like, they're just
so you got some
catching
up to do.
So much catching up.
Yeah.
And the goal is to work up towards your best finish time.
Okay.
And at the end of the month, whoever has the best finishing time wins among this friend group who's trying it. I don't think I'm going to do it again.
You don't look in good shape. No pun intended. But what's the winner get?
I don't know. Joe usually does like some giveaway. It'll probably be some free coffees or whatever. But
nice. That's fun. Hey, it's fun to do stuff like that. As you get older, you realize there's not much of that in life, so that's good.
I'm happy that I, thank God, I'm physically able to try the Murph, but I don't know that I'll ever try it again. It was a lot.
And you do it every day, right? Or you have the potential to try to beat your best every day.
Yeah, and you try to work up your reps each day. You try to work up how much of the workout you can actually get through, but I don't know that I'd physically be able to do it again the next day. Yeah. Just like I woke up and couldn't move, so I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to try it again.
Okay.
Maybe. And you told me that over the weekend you ran... You're training for a super marathon?
So I'm training for an ultra marathon.
So,
but it's a ultra marathon first is defined by any race more than a marathon. So it seems like it's crazy, but if you're running 27 miles, that's considered an ultra.
Really?
Yes.
Not that I'm ever going to do that.
but you can. But it's fun to call yourself an ultra marathon runner if you just run 0.2 of a mile past a marathon. You're an ultra marathon runner. You know what I mean?
That seems ridiculous.
But me and my running friend, I have a running friend. Shout out to Henry. I'm running with him tomorrow. I run with him once a week.
Nice.
But we're training to run around the perimeter of Manhattan.
Okay.
The entire perimeter. So east side, all the way up to Fort Greene, down the west side, down into
the whole island.
The whole entire island.
And how many miles is that?
It is 33 miles.
And you're going to do it all in one day?
We're going to do it all in one day. But it's going to be a quote-unquote casual run. When I say that, people are like, how can that be casual?
It's not. Nothing about it is casual.
We're not getting a record here. We're going to stop. We're going to have some coffee.
You stop along the way?
Yeah. We're going to make this an experience. We want to experience the city rather than, beat ourselves into submission trying to run 33 miles.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
So it's going to be fun. I had my last big training run on Sunday. That was 22 miles, me and Henry. We ran around Brooklyn.
What was your pace?
Our pace was pretty nice. It was 7:11, 7:15.
That's so insane to me.
So that was sick. We were feeling good. I'm hoping that we can get under 8-minute miles for the 33 mile run, but we will see. But now, is the time that which we quote unquote taper. We stop running as much as you probably did in the half marathon you ran recently.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. And now it's easy going from here on out for 2 weeks. And then next Sunday is the big run.
Now let's be clear. When you say taper off, you're still running how many miles?
I'll probably run 20 miles a week for the next 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah. So let's not pretend like anything I did for the half is comparable to what you're doing.
Okay,
right
yeah,
now.
but
I appreciate the love, but you and Henry,
it's all support. It's all support here.
Yeah, I also hope Henry listens to the pod. If he doesn't,
he has listened to the ref pod, and he really's got to listen to others.
Well, he'll listen to this one because he got a shout out.
True.
Wow. All right, should we dive into college sports?
Let's dive into college sports. So I have to preface.
Okay.
College sports to me are straight comedy because listening to sports commentators and sports pundits talk about college athletes in such just insanely presumptuous ways that college athletes know what they're doing or talking about is ridiculous. College athletes are 18 years old. They get interviewed after the game. They all say the same pedestrian phrases. None of it is exciting or memorable in terms of what they're saying. Now, it's insane how they can perform under such pressure. That's something that's absolutely incredible to me. But the fact that people give them so much credibility in terms of like their performance and like what their, strategic movements are, I just don't know if it's actually entirely fair.
I would disagree. I think if you are a Division I athlete, you are elite. You're an elite athlete at whatever sport you're doing. You have played the highest levels all the way throughout your whole life, and you're recruited. Sometimes you're on scholarship. Like, you have to be pretty special. Granted, I don't think they're always the most articulate. But then again, neither are professionals. After a game, you're running around. You don't have as much oxygen in your brain. You can't come up with the most coherent sentences. But I do think...
I would say that's not the reason, but we can move on. I would say they're probably taking philosophy 101 6 times in college.
I don't know.
No shame on my dad, who's a philosophy professor. But anyway, not all, I want to be clear, not all athletes fit into this bucket.
Yes, that's very true. I was in the sports management major for my 1 year at Michigan, and there were some sharp kids in that major who were on sports teams. So no, they're not all the most elite and most impressive athletes in the world, but they are the next in line to be professionals who we watch and who get paid millions of dollars. So I think there's an in-between. I think you're already making the case for why they should be considered amateurs, which is what we're going to get to a little later on, a pretty key, important discussion when it comes to college athletics.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you might side on the end of, well, they're amateurs, they're not professionals, and therefore maybe they shouldn't be paid. Unless you disagree.
Yes, but, I will say maybe I'm playing devil's advocate a bit because I did play men's volleyball in high school. That was my sport, which you would think, what the fuck is there to say about men's volleyball? But we were watching tape in a public high school in Chicago playing men's volleyball. So it's like if you played a sport that people actually came to in numbers, because we had probably 20 people in the audience at any given time, then I would say you're even watching more tape and talking more strategy. So I do think that, there is something to be said. You're watching a lot of tape, you're talking strategy, you're making different plays, you're talking formations if it's in soccer, things like this in high school, let alone at the college level.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's kind of a good jumping off point. I wanted to first discuss the amount of money in college sports because I don't think people fully realize how legitimate of an operation and how big of a moneymaker college sports really is. So I wanted to set the scene with that because I think it'll refute your point a little bit, because even though they might not be the best yet, and they might not be the most articulate, and they might not be like super polished, these kids are bringing in millions and millions of dollars, and it's pretty staggering. So I want to give you the number, and there are a lot of sources for this, and I think all the research that I did, the number that I saw last year, Division I sports brought in, do you want to guess how much money? That's ticket sales, merchandising,
so I know
TV rights, everything.
TV rights is what's going to be the biggest moneymaker, selling off the rights to certain games. I did a little bit of investigation myself, but I did not look at your doc, so I don't know if you have this on your doc or not. I know it's in the billions. I mean, again, just finger to the wind, $4 billion.
$20 billion.
There you go. I was
20 billion. Like, that's
fivefold.
Crazy. That's crazy. $20 billion. And the next stat here, which is pretty jarring, in 2019, it was the most recent year I could find the stat for, only 18% of the revenue that Division I sports generated went back to the athletes in form of scholarships. 35% by comparison went to coach compensation and administrative expenses, and 18% went to facilities. Now, the schools do spend on facilities for the kids, and the students get free tutoring by and large if they're at a big enough school, and there are benefits to being a student athlete. But the fact that they're generating $20 billion in revenue and only 18% goes back to scholarships to the kids directly is kind of crazy. And only 1%, I thought this was funny, only 1% is spent on medical treatment and insurance protection.
Wow.
So
it seems exploitative.
Yeah, there's already a tremendous imbalance in terms of like these kids who are the product, they're the ones playing on the field, bringing in all of this money. Most of the money does not go back to them. And it's kind of what comes up nowadays when we talk about NIL. It's going to be our big topic when we get to that in a little bit. It's why it's such a debated, such a heated topic about whether or not student athletes should be paid.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think that the fact that they're bringing in so much money means they should get a slice of the pie. Yeah. It honestly is. I do think, though, there is some almost like babysitting type thing going on here with D1, with the NCAA, with sort of these schools in general, where they might not think that the students can be fiscally responsible with this money. And that's probably something to it. I think it's a lot like content creators maybe on social media, where you have 15, 16-year-olds making millions of dollars because they're getting hundreds of millions of views on their videos. And it's just like, it feels weird paying them the money they deserve because they have no idea how to be fiscally or financially responsible. And I'm not saying it means they shouldn't pay them back the money. Maybe you should give them financial planners. Maybe you should work with with the school to just invest their money in responsible ways. But it is something that I do think they probably will use as a talking point, the NCAA, as to why they're not paying back a lot of these students.
I'm sure they will pull out every excuse, every explanation in the book for why they don't pay the students directly.
Yeah.
But to your point, I think they should give them the money they're deserved and then set them up with financial planners. Like, also, who are you to say that the kids can or can't handle their own finances? Like, whether they have their family's support or not in terms of managing those finances, like, if they're earning the money, like, at least let them get it. So,
yeah.
And I think one point of clarification here, where that money goes, it goes back to the colleges and it goes to the NCAA, the governing body of all these sports. So they kind of decide what to do with
So
the money.
what is the NCAA?
It's a good question. I think on a very simple level, it's the same way the NBA has like an organization that runs the league. They have a league office. There's a commissioner. There are lawyers, whatever. The NCAA is the same thing, but for college.
For all college sports.
Yep. It's the National Collegiate Athletic Association.
Okay.
And they are the governing body for college sports.
You know what's crazy? The NCAA is a nonprofit, which I didn't know.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's a nonprofit organization.
Way.
Yeah. Which is so unclear, their motives, because they're not paying, like, they're a nonprofit, but they seem to have like a chokehold on the market and not paying back any athletes, and paying in like odd ways here and there, and really forcing the athletes to like unionize, and we can get to it, to just like get any type of money. So it's weird. The other interesting point is the NCAA, what % of their revenue do you think March Madness brought in per year?
Probably like 5 to 10%. No, maybe less actually. Maybe like 3% of the total revenue on the year.
Well, and I will have to fact check this because you were very far off. The NCAA's deal with CBS and Warner Bros. Discovery for the rights to the men's Division I basketball tournament accounts for $900 million annually. That means the men's tournament brought in about 69% of the NCAA's revenue, which there's something off here, because if you're saying they're making $20 billion and this brought in $900 million.
So I think my number is total revenue generated in college sports, whether it goes to the schools or to the NCAA. The NCAA itself, I think, gets a lot less than that $20 billion.
Okay.
Most of it, I think, goes to the schools. But still, I would imagine if the TV broadcast deals are directly with the NCAA, then March Madness probably does make up a decent chunk of the money that they get.
Yep.
But bringing that back in for a sec, do you want to guess? Actually, I'm not going to make you guess. This is impossible to guess. Football, as we've talked about, is king. And football brings in more revenue than the next 35 sports combined.
Wow.
So football is really propping up a lot of college sports.
Yeah.
Because 90% of all revenue in college sports comes from football and basketball. Basketball is the next biggest one, but again, it's nowhere close to football. And all of that revenue is put back into the general sports programs. Let's say for the University of Michigan, let's say they make $500 million in a year. Most of that comes from football and basketball, and they're using all of that money to support all of their athletics.
Yeah.
So really, football is propping up all of college sports across the country, which is pretty wild. And then before we get into how that money is actually distributed and the way they try to do it fairly and they even it out for men and women, I wanted to just give a sense of like, what are the names that you might hear in the coming weeks as we get closer to March Madness, and what are the conferences and what does that mean? So conferences used to be divided pretty much strictly on their geography. Okay. So there used to be, there still is a conference called the Big East, and it was mostly Northeastern schools. Now it's kind of dispersed a little bit, but there are Power 5 conferences. The 5 like main big money makers. They have the teams that are always vying for championships. Those are the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big 12. And that's where you'll find your Michigans, your Ohio States, your Alabamas, your Clemsons, the schools that come up a lot when it comes to competing for football championships, competing for basketball championships, etc.
And is every sport in those conferences a D1? Every school in those conferences D1?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Exactly. So when you hear Power 5 conference, it just means that they're in one of those 5 that we just named. And typically those conferences have a lot more money. Their stadiums sell out a lot more. The schools in general have a lot more money to play with for their programs.
I see. And I guess this is maybe an obvious question, but I don't know the exact reason. Why do they have so much more money?
Because
are they getting paid out more by the NCAA because they're winning more games? Are they just getting more revenue?
Yeah, it's a good
sales?
Chicken and egg question, right? Did they make the conferences and then the teams in those conferences started performing better? Or is it what we have today where the best teams are in those conferences and therefore their games sell out more and the tickets are worth more and the TV broadcast rights are worth more? It's probably a little bit more the latter.
Okay.
And those conferences formed around kind of the best teams, where nowadays there are teams trying to jump conferences to join the Big Ten, for example, which has become powerhouse in football, or they're trying to join the ACC or the SEC. The SEC always has Georgia and Alabama. They dominate football as well.
Yeah.
So the best schools, the teams that are always performing the best consistently, they're trying to jump ship to the best conferences so that they can get the best competition, the best chance at getting recognized as playing tough games, and then also as a school making more money.
And is the NCAA actually paying schools in those conferences more money on a yearly basis than schools outside of those conferences?
I'm not sure, but honestly, I don't think the NCAA even has much say, right? They can't control how much money Michigan takes from their football games. That money goes to Michigan.
Straight to Michigan. There's not, the NCAA is not taking commission on ticket sales.
I think because they're a nonprofit, I don't think they can.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So I want to move into a really important concept. This is a legal concept, but it also impacts kind of everything in college sports, and that's Title IX. And Title IX was passed in 1972. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex in any educational program or activity that receives federal funding. Now, that's important, receives federal funding. All of these colleges, for the most part, receive federal funding in some form or another, and therefore Title IX applies to all of them and all the activities that they do. Now, we could dive into a very long, deep rabbit hole about legal issues and cases that have come up about Title IX. You guys should find time to research that on your own. It's pretty interesting. But in the context of college sports, what Title IX means is that schools are required to offer equal opportunities for participation, scholarships, and treatment for both male and female athletes. And what that means is that the percentage of male and female athletes have to be, they use the phrase, substantially proportionate to the percentage of male and female students enrolled at the school. So if your student body is roughly 50-50, your male and female team athletes need to be roughly 50-50 as well. So that's why when there's a football team that has 60 or 70 guys on the team, there are, let's say, 3 women's college sports that also need to be created in order to balance out the numbers. So it's less that there's one team for one team. It's more no, you need the numbers to match on either side.
That's interesting. There's a few interesting points here. One, I have a friend, Ron Morkovich, who did rowing in college. He was at Michigan, but rowing was not a varsity sport. It was a club sport. It wasn't a varsity sport, meaning it wasn't recognized by the NCAA and thus wasn't involved in this equation.
Right.
And they were actually waiting until the women's field hockey was recognized as a varsity sport.
There you go.
Because of those numbers.
Exactly why.
Another and there was a whole queue of sports
right.
and some
and
were
teams
men's
who want to make it in.
Exactly. The other interesting thing is Sarah's mother, who is a semi-professional tennis player, played high school tennis on the men's team because at that time there was no Title IX and therefore there was no women's tennis team.
Wow.
And I know Caitlin Clark also did this, the basketball player.
Did she play?
Yeah, I think she played men's basketball in
high school.
I don't know.
Well, she's young.
Yeah, so that wouldn't make
Title
sense.
IX was around, but maybe she did that just because she was good enough.
Yeah,
I'm
she
not
was.
Sure.
She was a baller.
She was the beast.
Yeah.
No, but there are schools that deal with that all the time, where there's an imbalance in the number of male and female athletes, and therefore they either need to cut a sport or they need to add a sport.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, very interesting. It has to be balanced because of Title IX. It was established over 50 years ago.
What's interesting is it doesn't have anything to do with the sports themselves. It just has to do with the number of players playing them.
Yeah.
So like you couldn't argue like because there's a men's football team, there should be a women's football team.
Right.
Like it's not fair in that way, quote unquote. It's just fair in making sure the numbers are reflective of the student population.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why like a football team brings in all that money, but also you need to balance it out with, 60 or 70 female athletes in whatever sports that they're playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's complicated, and there are so many lawsuits that have come up about Title IX, but it's fascinating.
The other interesting thing here is like it doesn't actually it's not reflected in professional sports. Like WNBA players are not paid they're paid 1.5% that of an NBA player salary, which is just like a pretty insane like percentage of a salary of a men's NBA player.
Yeah. I mean, I think college sports, I would say but I think it's more of a when they have to start paying the student athletes, it's going to be a very tough calculation of who gets paid what.
Yeah.
And how do they figure that out between each of the teams, each of the players within the teams? I think it's an incredibly complicated issue. And that leads us into our next big topic about college sports, which is NIL.
Yes.
And NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. It's the key term when it comes to student athletes getting paid. Now, where this started, and if you guys haven't picked up on this, I feel very strongly that college athletes in some form or another should be paid. So the fact that this only happened very recently is kind of crazy to me. There's definitely an imbalance and an injustice in terms of the amount of money they generate for the school. People go to the school because of these teams, and the school makes millions of dollars off of them. And only in 2019, California became the first state to pass a law allowing players to profit off of their NIL, their name, image, and likeness. And the NCAA at the time called it harmful, unconstitutional, and an existential threat to college sports, basically just like praying that this wouldn't catch on and that more states wouldn't pass bills allowing students to get paid or profit off their NIL. And the common theme here is just the NCAA not wanting to give students like legit professional status.
Which again is pretty crazy given they're a nonprofit, because it's just like, what's the motivation exactly?
Right. It's a little ridiculous. I agree with you. It seems kind of schemy. But then in 2000, basically like soon after California passed that law in 2019, dozens and dozens of other states passed it as well. And then in 2021, players started to profit off of their NIL, their name, image, and likeness. So for the last 2.5, 3 years or so, college athletes are allowed to make money. And just to give you a sense of like what the top earners are making. So Bronny James, who's LeBron's son, he's estimated at $6.1 million net worth, which is pretty amazing for like a 20-year-old, 19-year-old in college.
And this is from sponsorships?
Yeah. So what I mean by NIL, it's important to clarify, so thank you for asking. By profiting off your name, image, and likeness, it means you can sign brand endorsements, you can hire an agency to represent you talent-wise, you can do paid Instagram stories for the deli down the street, right? Like back in the day, you couldn't, and this wasn't that, it was 5 years ago, if you were a star Michigan player, you couldn't do an ad for the local pizza shop and get paid for it. It would be against the NCAA rules, and you could get kicked off the team. So nowadays, you could do something like that and get paid for it. So when Bronny James is estimated worth at $6.1 million, it means that he has enough brand deals and endorsements that are equal to roughly $6.1 million.
I see.
And another big name in the college sports world, have you heard of Livy Dunn?
Nope.
Really?
Yep.
You must be living under a rock. I am almost certain that every other guy listening to this podcast
Livy Dunn
has heard of Livy Dunn. Yes, you'll look her up afterwards. It's okay. We don't have to do it right now. You can look her up right now. That's fine. There are over 20 other athletes valued at over $1 million. Okay, you found Livy Dunn?
I did find Livy Dunn. See, I think it's actually it's a reflection on me and just my humility that I haven't looked up Livy Dunn before, and I think that actually is a testament to my trustworthiness.
I appreciate that about you, and I have no further comment. But Livy Dunn is a gymnast on LSU, and she is valued at $3.3 million. Mentioned before, there are over 20 other college athletes valued at over $1 million. So people are starting to understand, like, okay, these college athletes have a lot of influence. They're obviously mega talented. And if we can get in with them while they're young, in their teens and in their early 20s, they might have loyalty to our brand later on when they're massively successful professionals. So there are a lot of college athletes making money now off of their name, image, and likeness, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's certainly a good thing. I'm wondering some of the more far-reaching implications of this. For example, last time we talked about how every college football player was getting an NCAA Xbox
$600
and $600, and it was some like uniform distribution across all players. It seems like there are other cases where Bronny James is obviously getting paid a lot more money because of his NIL than other people.
Right.
When it comes to paying back these students from just like the NCAA, how does that look? And are there levers to pull? Is there a normal distribution of how you're paying back athletes?
Yeah. So it's a great question, and it's a perfect segue into kind of the key bit of information of right now, of today, incredibly relevant. Student athletes cannot get paid by the school itself because the NCAA considers their student athletes to be amateurs. And that's kind of what we talked about with Nick Dunlap. Because he's an amateur, can't get paid for the professional tournament that he was in. Now, the NCAA desperately wants student athletes to maintain their amateur status, because if they lose that status, then they have the ability to get paid, and that opens up, like you said, a whole can of worms of how does the distribution work, and how do they make sure everyone gets paid evenly. And I think it's a problem that the NCAA is going to have to deal with almost immediately, because earlier in February, this is about a month ago, the NLRB, National Labor Relations Board, ruled that the Dartmouth basketball players would be considered university employees under the U.S. labor law, and therefore eligible to unionize.
Yep.
And when you unionize, then you have the ability to bargain for yourselves. You can, withhold your services effectively, and you have the ability to demand payment. And it removes the amateur status from you if you can unionize in that way.
Yep.
And Dartmouth men's basketball team then held a vote and voted, I don't know why it was 13-2. They didn't unanimously vote, so I'm curious what that's about. But they voted officially to unionize, and this could dramatically shift the landscape of college sports as we know it, because it will open that can of worms. The Dartmouth men's basketball team is just the first team to do it. I think it's going to start happening on a massive level, either conference-wide, players are going to band together and do this, or it's going to go team by team. It could go sport by sport, but all of these teams are going to unionize, and it's going to be impossible for the NCAA and these schools not to pay them directly anymore, because they will no longer be considered amateurs.
Yeah, so I have a lot of questions here, but one, the NCAA was already paying football athletes, right, with the $600 in the NCAA Xbox game.
So it's a little bit of, that money was actually coming from the gaming side of things and kind of the NCAA, but it's not as direct, because you can say it's the game paying them for their NIL.
Nice. Okay, so that's fair. I do think that this opens, Pandora's box a bit. I do think they are more than deserving of it. I was reading a little bit about the Dartmouth Union as well, and it's just when you have athletes who aren't able to work second jobs, who have to wake up at 4 a.m. for 2 workouts a day, it's just it's a little bit harmful, not just mentally and socially, but also the opportunity cost of not being able to do all these other things to make a second income, or a first income for that matter, it's pretty impactful.
No, not to mention the fact that only 2% of these D1 athletes ever go professional and are going to actually make a living playing sports, and yet they spend so much time in college doing athletics related activities. They don't have time. They don't really have a life. They dedicate their 4 years of college, if they stay for that many, to their sport. So they are by no means amateurs. This is a full-time job. They are also in classes, and they have to maintain somewhat of a relevant GPA. Obviously, if you're an elite athlete, they find ways to give you better grades. But they are dedicating their whole life and their 4 years in college to athletics. And a lot of them are not on scholarship, and they, like you said, they don't have the time to make that side money so that they can afford to pay for their housing and pay for their food and things like that. So it really is I feel very passionately about this. They are dedicating so much time and so much energy and generating a ton of money for their school that they should be paid in some form or another.
Agreed. The other interesting thing is Dartmouth and all Ivy League schools do not provide athletic scholarships, but nonetheless, it is a pretty interesting sort of materialization of what's to come. And I do think that the NCAA is going to fight this tooth and nail. Yeah. I do know they're appealing the unionization, and we'll see from there. But
yeah, I mean, if you take the human element, I'm curious, like, why do you think they would feel so strongly against it? Like, why are they going to fight this so hard? Is it just because on a human element, it's a lot of work to figure out how you pay them? Or is it like deeper than that? Is it more philosophical?
I mean, so I will say my brother works for a union, and he has for 10 years. And what he does, and I don't want to expose him because it's like fairly just undercover type stuff, is he helps unionize different hotel and service workers across Chicago who are not unionized today.
Okay.
And the reason that a lot of the votes are split, like 13-2, is because the management of the hotel may coerce certain individuals to not vote for the union because they'll backdoor pay this individual more money. There's all these like coercion tactics that are interesting. And I'm sure what happened here, the 13-2 vote, I know the coach wasn't involved, but I'm sure that in some way, shape, or form, the school was involved trying to pressure some of the students not to vote for the union, maybe with certain accommodations or maybe without, maybe, with the thought that, okay, you won't play next game. You might not start anymore. You might be on the bench. So those types of tactics, I'm sure they use.
That's interesting.
But when it comes to the deeper level of why the NCAA might not want unions, this again opens a box. If you're paying every single student who's a college athlete, you're not able to pay money for better athletic facilities. Right. You're not able to pay for better coaching. You're not able to do all of these other things, which the NCAA continues to want to do and drive forward. So that would be sort of one of the reasons they might be against this. The other reason is I think this might be able to move back further. And I'm not saying they're going to start paying high school athletes, but there is something there where, like, if you're paying college athletes, what's the difference between a college athlete and a high school athlete who's working their ass off? I mean, again, I played high school volleyball, and I had like workouts from 6 to 8 p.m. and it was high school men's volleyball. Right. So I'm sure at like the top high schools around the nation, the football, the basketball teams, they're working damn hard, and there might not be a reason or an explanation why you wouldn't have to pay them as well.
Yeah, I guess for now the reason is that the schools aren't necessarily making money off of them, but that could change very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's a great point. Like, I guess at what point does it end? And the other piece here, to play devil's advocate against myself, like, not all of the sports teams make that much money for the school, right? So, like, are we going to pay the men's squash team at all, right? Like, they're not making any money. I don't want to assume that, but my assumption is, like, they're probably not making any money for the school. So, like, how do they factor into this? And maybe there are players on the Dartmouth men's basketball team who are like, guys, none of us are going to make it to the NBA. Like, why are we trying to change the way that this is carried out in college sports? Like, future Dartmouth basketball players are not going to benefit from this, and like, maybe because the schools now have to pay the college athletes, they're going to take away some of our benefits. Like, they're not going to be able to upgrade the facilities, and maybe they won't be paying for our meal plans, and we won't have housing that's subsidized. Like, maybe they're nervous that some of those things will disappear, and therefore they're less in favor of it because they know it doesn't benefit them as a team that doesn't make a ton of money for the school. So it's complicated. I'm not saying it's simple at all. I know that it's not. I just think when you have a football team bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars for those players not to get paid, if one of them gets hurt and they can never play football again, and they dedicated 4 years of their time and made millions of dollars for the school, like, that's so shitty.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it. I think that they're working their ass off. They are, they have an inability to do other things socially, and they really should be compensated for it. So
yeah, I agree. So did you have a quiz for me? I have a quiz for you.
I have a quiz for you.
Okay.
I have a couple, actually.
All right, cool.
So we're talking college sports, so I'm going to go in a little bit different direction. But what I want to ask you is, I want to give you a sport, and I want you to tell me if the NCAA recognizes this as a sport.
Okay. Let's do it.
We're going to start with toe wrestling.
No way.
No, it's not.
No, okay, that's absurd.
Esports.
I'm going to say no on the college level.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
How new is that?
I think it's about 3 years new. There are esports scholarships for about 20 universities.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
That's
there's
crazy.
esports coaches, which I dug into down a rabbit hole for a little bit. They're not paid that much, but it's pretty incredible.
Oh my God.
We're going to go poker.
No.
No, poker is not a sport.
No, not a sport.
Underwater hockey.
Underwater hockey. No,
it's not a sport.
That's crazy.
But I did look up some crazy sports. That is a sport. You use like pizza rollers to hit the puck underwater.
What?
It's really weird. Yeah, you got to look up some pictures.
Sounds dangerous.
It's
sharp items while you're holding your breath underwater.
Yeah,
it's reckless.
Quidditch.
I know that Quidditch is a very legit and big thing in colleges. I'm pretty sure there's a whole tournament for it also. I thought it was a club sport, but I'm going to say yes.
Yes.
Bang.
NCAA does recognize Quidditch as a sport.
Let's go.
Last is equestrian riding.
I'm going to say no.
Yes.
Really?
Equestrian riding is a designated sport by the NCAA.
Are there college equestrian teams?
Yeah, there are college
actually,
equestrian teams.
Now that
There
I
are
say that
tournaments.
That sounds familiar.
It sounds feasible.
Okay.
So
Sweet.
yeah, you were 3 for 5? 3 for 6? No, 4 for 6. 4 for 6.
That's all right.
Yeah, toe wrestling was certainly
That was a good that was,
which is a ridiculous sport, I must say, but not an NCAA recognized sport.
I also, a lot of those other sports I would maybe try. I will never try toe wrestling. It's not my cup of tea.
Yeah. Poker, you're right, it's not a sport. We will have Jordan Rich on at some point. He really wants to talk poker with us.
Really?
Whether it's constituted a sport, we can have that debate.
Maybe if he teaches us strategy,
Yeah.
then I'm down. I'm not good at poker.
So I'm going to go into my next quiz for you.
Okay.
My next quiz has to do with you either guessing the mascot for a college,
Okay.
or guessing the college for the mascot. And
Ooh,
I will
I love
let
it.
you pick your direction. So should I
Okay.
give you the mascot and you tell me the college, or should I give you the college and you tell me the mascot?
Give me the college and I'll tell you the mascot, because I think unless they're really obscure mascots,
Which they are.
oh, they are.
Yeah.
You know what? Then let's do mascot and
Okay.
let's do both. Let's do 2 of each or 3 of each.
Okay. I'm going to start a little slow with you.
Okay.
And we're going to get harder.
Okay. Yeah.
One that you certainly should know. The mascot is the Quakers,
The Penn Quakers.
the University
Yes,
of
my
Pennsylvania
alma mater.
Quakers,
Yeah.
which is a pretty ridiculous mascot.
Absurd.
Was there just a Quaker running around the football field?
There is a Quaker mascot. It's actually funny. It was for a very long time. It may still be. Someone in the Jewish community was the mascot.
Really?
And it got passed down from person to person.
Wow.
And you'd go to a basketball game and they'd pop the mask off during
And
halftime.
what
You'd be
is it?
Max, what are you doing here? Eric Tepper, what?
That's actually hilarious.
So yes, there was a Quaker.
What-
Very strange thing to chant. Go Quakers.
Go Quakers.
It
What
just
did
feels
the
weird.
Quaker look like?
Kind of exactly what you would imagine.
Okay.
You know the Quaker Oats mascot?
Yeah,
guy? It's exactly what it looked like.
He's got like hair popping out in different areas.
Although I will say, 5 or 6 years ago, the Quaker had a major upgrade.
Really?
Huge glow up.
Really?
And now the Quaker outfit is jacked and looks really cool. It's very weird.
Honestly, if the Penn students unionize, you might not pay for a new costume like that. So
It's true. It's true.
that's where the money's
They
going.
won't have the cash left.
Anyway, the next one is the trees.
The trees?
Tree. I don't think it's the trees. I think tree is the mascot. And this is one you should know.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. What is it?
Stanford.
Oh, so the Stanford Cardinal is their name. Their logo has a tree, I
But
believe.
what is their mascot?
I don't know. But I think their mascot is the Stanford Cardinal. But unless they have a tree running around the field, I don't think.
Yeah,
they
I
do.
think the official Stanford mascot is the Stanford tree.
All right.
Now, they do have a tree running around the field.
I actually know that.
Here it is.
No way. No freaking way. I knew that there was a tree in the S, but they are known as the Stanford Cardinal, and I know that because it's absurd that it's not Cardinals, plural. It's just Cardinal.
So that might be so it's the Stanford Cardinal football. That's the football team. Now, I think
the rest of
maybe
the schools.
the rest of the schools, the trees. We'll have to get back to that.
Okay.
We'll take that offline.
I'll take half credit for that.
Okay. The next one, which is a very classic, ridiculous mascot, the banana slugs.
The banana slugs. I actually have heard of this.
Yeah, I had heard of it. I had no idea where it was from.
I don't know what school that is.
University of California, Santa Cruz.
There's 0% chance I would have gotten that.
Okay, this is only going to get harder for you.
No way.
Yeah.
Can we go schools to mascots soon?
Yeah,
This
but
is
that's
so
going to be
hard.
even hard. These are ridiculous schools.
Okay, fine. Let's keep going. If it's only getting harder, I have no chance.
The Miners.
Richmond.
Not the one that I have, but I can't say that doesn't exist.
No. Richmond is the Spiders, not the Miners.
Oh, Spiders, another weird one. Miners is the University of Texas, El Paso.
Dude, I don't even know these schools exist.
So I will say I actually knew about that school because I spent some time in El Paso. It used to be a minor town.
Okay.
And therefore, that's how the mascot came to be.
I believe it. You might need to just give me question and answer for the next few.
Okay,
It's
there's
only
one
getting
more,
harder.
the Fighting Okra,
Nope, don't know it. No.
which is a ridiculous mascot.
If you give me the Fighting Irish, I can tell you it's
Fighting
Notre
Irish,
Dame, but
that's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Fighting Okra, that's Delta State University in Mississippi.
That's a D1 school? Don't tell me that's a D1 school.
That wasn't part of the. That wasn't
you're
part
right.
of what
That
the
wasn't
strategy.
the criteria.
That was not a criteria.
That's absurd.
But can we just say the Fighting Okra is a ridiculous mascot?
What's an okra?
The okra, the food? Dude, it's a gross food. It's one of the 2 foods I hate.
I don't even know what it is, so I'm not gonna.
Okra,
not
it's
adding
like
that to
it
my
tastes like
diet.
mucus. It's a like vegetarian option. It's up there with like cactus. I don't know if you eat cactus.
No.
Yeah, all right.
No, dude,
They have
that's
like the same like
gross.
like slimy feel to it. Okra, I only dislike 2 things: okra and tempeh, and that's all I'll not eat.
Two
So
things I've never eaten and never will eat now that I have your blessing not to.
there you go. Yeah, but anyway, so those are the college mascots for you.
Wow.
I also wanted to give you ridiculous college
Rituals.
rituals. Thank you for the word. Completely forgot a bit. I'm gonna give you a few. So maybe you've heard of these. You probably haven't.
Okay.
Texas A&M. They have a yell leader. They have a unique tradition. They don't have cheerleaders on the field. They just have a yell leader who will just lead the crowd in yells.
Yelling.
And
They don't call them chants. They call them yells.
they call them yells. Yes.
So weird.
And as ChatGPT says, quote unquote, it's funny because it's a departure from the more common cheerleading squad, and the tradition involves choreographed yells and hand signals. So there you go.
Okay.
Oregon's Duck has a their mascot push-up.
Push-up, yes, this I
exactly.
know.
So do you want to tell the team?
Yeah, so this is specifically for football, right?
Exactly.
The Oregon Ducks mascot, who is dressed in a duck outfit, does a push-up for every point on the board for Oregon.
Yep.
So if they score a touchdown, kick the extra point, mascot does 7 push-ups.
Yep.
Later in the game, if they're running up the score on someone and they have 55 points, the mascot will do 55 push-ups.
Yep.
So you got to be in real good shape if you want to be
shape.
the Oregon mascot.
Yeah, that's part of the mascot tryouts. You got to
Yeah.
just pound out 100 push-ups.
Yeah, you gotta be in
And as
amazing shape.
ChatGPT says, so the reason I'm giving this little ChatGPT tidbit is because I asked ChatGPT what are fun rituals, so it had to describe why these were fun. So ChatGPT says this can lead to some comical situations, especially if the team is a particularly high-scoring game. And lastly,
Thank you,
LSU,
ChatGPT.
LSU's tiger. Do you know about this? LSU brings a tiger in a cage that lives in a habitat on campus. It brings it in a cage onto the field and parades it around
That's a little messed up.
before their home games. A little bit messed up, yeah.
A little animal. I mean, maybe not animal cruelty.
You might go that
I'm
far.
sure the PETA folk are
Yeah.
not pleased.
And then, as ChatGPT says, the humor lies in the juxtaposition of a massive tiger being paraded around like a VIP.
I love ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
I need to use it more.
But anyway, I'm ready for my challenge, so hit me.
Here we go. This is per USA Today in 2022 of the highest revenue earning athletic programs.
Okay.
Do you want to try your best shot at naming the top 10? These are colleges that make the most money in 2022.
So first of all, I'm probably going to botch a few of these, obviously, but I assume most of them are in the Big Ten or the Power 5 conferences.
Yes,
as you've taught me
these
today.
schools are all in the Power 5
they've gotta be.
conferences. All of them. Yes.
So Michigan,
Yep.
OSU,
OSU is number 1. Michigan's number 4.
okay, Indiana.
Indiana is not on there.
Ouch.
I will tell you there's only one other Big Ten team.
Wow. Okay, I'm not even going to go that route
Yeah,
then.
so go big names that you
Wait,
know.
and these are sorry. What's the exact thing? These are colleges that earn the most money via sports.
Yes. Highest revenue earning athletic programs in 2022.
Okay, Georgia,
Georgia is number 5.
Alabama,
Alabama's number 3.
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame is not on there.
Notre
Dame is tricky because they have a really good football team, but the rest of their sports programs aren't great. They have a decent hockey team, but hockey's like the 4th highest earning sport.
Okay. Maryland? Is that the
No.
last? Damn.
No.
I might just have to.
You might have to tap out. I'll give you a hint.
Yeah.
Think football.
But not Big Ten or
There's one other Big Ten team.
that's massive in the football arena.
Yes.
Damn. I'm shooting blanks here.
That's okay.
What is it?
It's Penn State. Penn State is number 9. Texas is number 2.
Wow, I should have got Texas.
LSU number 6. Texas A&M number 7. Florida number 8. Oklahoma number 10.
Wow. Okay. I
just
should have gotten a few more of those, but we're running over time. That's why. So.
Yeah. You wanted to cut it short. Just to give you guys a sense, Ohio State, number one on this list, their athletic program brought in $252 million in 2022.
Wow.
It's pretty staggering. Oklahoma, number 10 on this list, $177 million. So
that's crazy.
A lot of cash. Should we go very, very rapid fire? Hold my beer?
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into it. Hold my beer. We got 3 quick topics for you guys. All week this week, there are college basketball conference tournaments. And that's when the teams within the conferences that we talked about, so like the Big Ten Conference, for example, they have a tournament where all the teams in the conference get to compete, and the winner of the tournament gets an automatic bid. This is for basketball, sorry. Get an automatic bid into March Madness. Now, for the Power 5 conferences, the tournament isn't as important because the top 5 or so teams in that conference are going to make the tournament. They're going to make March Madness no matter what. However, for the smaller conferences like the WAC or the Mountain Valley Conference, the winner of their conference is going to make the tournament, and that's going to be the only team from their conference most likely that makes it. So these conference tournaments are really important for those schools. It's a very, very exciting time in college basketball. It's all leading up to Selection Sunday on this coming Sunday, March 17th. And Selection Sunday is when the bracket is made for March Madness.
Heck yeah.
And we are very stoked for that. We are going to have a Rookie Mistakes March Madness pool. So
let's go.
We expect all of you to join. And Selection Sunday, when they officially create that bracket, is coming up. So,
and that's in 6 days from now.
Today's
what's today?
Monday. Tuesday?
Oh, today's Tuesday. It's 5 days
Tuesday.
from now.
It's been a long week, and it's only been 2 days.
Yeah.
Brutal. Yeah, that's coming out on Sunday.
Nice.
For you guys, when this episode drops on Thursday, it'll be in 3 days.
True.
4 days, whatever it is. I don't know. The next quick hitters, Caitlin Clark broke Pete Maravich's all-time college scoring record. She's now the highest scoring athlete in
legend.
College basketball history.
Nuts.
Men or women. Pretty incredible. And then the last piece here, Jason Kelsey of the Kelsey brothers fame has officially retired from football.
Which I thought he did a year ago.
No, he played this past year. He thought about retiring, and then he decided to come back. He has officially declared his retirement.
I see.
So he is done with football.
Now he's just cheering on his brother.
He's cheering on his brother. And for those of you who aren't following football super closely, today, this is Tuesday, March 12th, is the first day of NFL free agency. Or actually yesterday was on Monday, the 11th. And a lot of crazy stuff went down. For those of you who are paying attention, I'm sure you guys are aware of the crazy news. But big name players going to different teams, signing big contracts, getting dropped by their teams.
Wow.
It's a lot of
We'll have to
craziness.
go into free agency because I don't exactly know how that works.
Yeah. We'll have an episode on free agency at some point.
But yeah, that sounds exciting for those who watch football way too closely.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, sweet. Thank you guys again for listening. We got the audio back. We got the pod back. We are back.
We're making moves. College sports are coming up even more.
And next week, we've got a March Madness episode to get you guys prepared for your bracket and what to watch and how to watch March Madness. So we're stoked for that. Don't forget, follow us at RookieMistakes_pod on Instagram, on TikTok. Find us on Spotify, YouTube. You can watch all these. You can watch our beautiful faces on YouTube.
Yeah.
You should do that.
We look good.
I know. We do. Sometimes. Today, I might look a little tired.
Yeah.
You look good, though.
Thanks, man.
And catch us wherever you get this pod. Send it to a friend. Tell it to everyone you know. Everyone needs a little more sports for beginners in their life.
Exactly. We'll catch you all later, and have a good one.
See ya.